Every year, 1.4 million boys are born in Brazil, but on average, only 5 make it to top-flight football in Europe. Those are odds of 1 in 270,000. But what if I told you Rodrigo had different odd, but because before he was even born, he had no choice but to become a football superstar. But this didn't come easy, because time and time again, they risked it all just for the shot of success. But somehow, the odds always fell in Rodrigo's favor. How did a boy that was forced to play football become the greatest player in his generation? He was set to be born in Sao Paulo on Christmas in 2000, but except he wasn't, because his father, a 16-year-old Eric Goes, had different ideas, as he was planning his son's destiny before he was even born. You see, if you are born at the end of the year, you will be the youngest player in your football club, and with all the other kids being bigger and older than you, it's hard to stand out and be noticed by scouts, meaning your football career might be over before it has even began. But Eric knew this, as he was footballer himself, and he was on a mission to make his son a great football player. So he told Rodrigo's young mother, Denise, to wait and avoided taking her to the hospital because he needed to be born in January to give him the best shot at football success. And on January 9th, 2001, he came into this world, with his dad already mapping out a path to his greatness. Even as a toddler, he started kicking with his weak foot, copying Neymar's haircuts. And his dad would tell him words are powerful. So he would say to himself over and over again, I will play for Madrid, I will play for Brazil, I will win the Champions League, I will play in the World Cup. At the same time, his dad was also trying to make a name for himself in Brazil's Serie B. So he knew how hard it was to make it in a country where everyone wanted to be the next Pelé, Ronaldo Nazario, and maybe Neymar. And they are so many incredibly skilled players who just miss out on their dreams. So, because of this, he was tough on Rodrigo, especially when it came to football. Eric was the referee to Rodrigo's games, and instead of being a protective dad, he allowed his opposition to foul him the whole match without giving any foul. Rodrigo's dad's car was starting to take off, so because of that, he didn't see Rodrigo often. After his dad plied Santos, Rodrigo got to meet his idol, and this was a life-changing moment for the boy. Now, you see, Santos is a club of legends, not just Neymar, but Pelé, Robinho, Ganso. And everybody knew that every generation had a Santos legend. And people were starting to believe that Rodrigo was going to be the next club legend. But there was one problem. Rodrigo didn't play for Santos, because the club that he was playing for is Santos's biggest rival. And funny enough, their academy didn't allow them to play competitive games until they were 15. But as we know, Rodrigo had no time. So there was no choice. So he had to transfer to his rival club, which was a full 2 hours away. So he started training with Santos 3 times a week, but still kept training with Sao Paulo. This gave him a packed schedule of school, futsal, and football. Jay only got to see his dad during the summer vacation, but this would soon start to pay off, cause he would start to catch the eye of people all over the world, including sportswear giants Nike. They spotted him at a tournament in New York, making him the youngest player to be sponsored by Nike at just 11 years old. But it wasn't just Nike that took notice. Also, the great Brazil took notice of the Wonder Kid, because he was preparing for the main stage. Because at just 16 years old, he got the chance to train with Santos's first team, and soon found himself on the substitutes bench with fans chanting for him to come on. Now, even though he played only 1 minute, it wouldn't be long until he became a regular starter, skipping school to score goal in the Brazilian League, including 1 goal against Uruguayan club Nation, which he claims to be the greatest goal he has ever scored in his career. That goal made him the youngest Santos player to score in the competition. At this point, he was starting to be compared to Neymar, and he even decided to switch his jersey number to 11, just like Ye's idol. And at the same time, European giants were starting to fight for the Rodrigo's signature. He even got the chance to play with his childhood idol. But this is when Rodrigo would do something that shocked many people. While most players would sign without hesitation, he thought back to his mantra that he would say to himself every day. So he rejected the offers and decided to wait for Real Madrid call up. Meanwhile, his dad was telling him to take what is given. But he took a wild gamble and told his dad to give him one more game to score a hat-trick, and that would be enough to get Madrid to come knocking. He scored on the 22nd minute, on the 26th minute, and on the 31st minute of the match. Completing a hat-trick in 9 minutes, he was almost certain that Real Madrid came running for his signature. But when he got home and asked if Madrid called, but his dad said no one called, Rodrigo was devastated and spent the next day sulking in his room. But little did he know, the next day his dad had a big surprise for him, because the previous night he actually got a call from Real Madrid. And just like that, he was now playing for the Los Blancos for just $45 million. He said signing for Madrid was the best thing to happen in his life, but little did he know he would make history in Madrid. It was on September 19th when Rodrigo made his debut for Real Madrid, coming on in the 71st minute against Osasuna. And not long after, he would score his first goal for the Los Blancos, becoming the first player born in the 21st century to score for the club. And when I say it didn't take long, I'm not over-exaggerating, because it only took 93 seconds. And he would soon make his mark in the Champions League, because in November, against Galatasaray, he scored his first Champions League goal just 4 minutes into the match. Then would score again 2 minutes later, completing the fastest brace in Champions League history. He then scored right at the end of the game, becoming the second youngest player to score a hat-trick in the Champions League. But it wouldn't be long until one of his other dreams would come true, because the following night he woke up to screaming downstairs, so he rushed downstairs to see what was going on, and his family told him he had just been called up to the Brazilian team. But after this call up, things started to go downhill for him, scoring only 3 goals for the remainder of the season, and playing less than 1,000 minutes in La Liga. He also suffered a hamstring injury that ruled him out of the season, with many fans labeling him as a flop and suggesting that he should be sold. They saw the signings of Rodrigo and Vini as gambles on young players with potential, saying that they should have signed a seasoned pro instead. And Rodrigo just didn't fit into Real Madrid's attack, because with Vini and Hazard in his preferred position, he was forced to play on the right side, and he continued to slop throughout Zidane's last season as head coach. And even under Ancelotti, his struggles still continued heading into the 21-22 season. But it was towards the end of the season when he started to take form, getting 7 goal involvements in the last 8 matches of the Luge season, showing glimpses of what a player he could be, helping Real Madrid to lift the La Liga trophy. But it was in the Champions League where he really started to put a show. They had a tough campaign, narrowly beating PSG, and in the quarterfinals, where they faced up against Chelsea, winning the first leg 3-1, meaning they were for 3 down on aggregate. And that's when Ancelotti turned to the substitute bench and told Rodrigo to just change the game. And change the game he did, as he scored a goal to take the game to extra time. Benzema got another goal to send them to the semi-finals, where they faced up against Manchester City. They lost the first leg for 3. They were down a goal, meaning they needed more goals to take it to extra time. And once again, Rodrigo was called up to become a hero. But the thing is, the game was already set, because the match analytics gave Man City a 99% chance of winning and gave Madrid only a 1% chance of winning. He scored not 1, but 2 goals, helping Madrid to win the Champions League. And with that, he completed his 3rd life goal. And just a few months later, he would achieve the last of his dreams as he would play in the World. But things didn't go as planned. Brazil was among the favorites, and in their matchup against Croatia, it went to penalties, Rodrigo to the first penalty and missed. This meant Brazil was eliminated. But since then, his impact on Real Madrid and Brazil has been exceptional. He went from being a flop to being a global superstar.